I'm sure I didn't do the series any justice. Me just going, that was awesome. That was
No,
great.
And now it's time for us to digest the lowest rung of pop culture so you don't have to. You're tuned in to the all-new CultureCast.
and we're back with a very special episode of the all-new CultureCast. I am not Nick. I am Cousin Charles, and I am joined today by...
I'm Mike. Hey, how's it going?
Yay! It's just the two of us, good sir. And if you've read for all you listeners at home, if you're reading the title description, this is the all new CultureCast, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm going to dub this one the series overview,
Right.
because we're kind of building up. This is something that you and I, we've been talking about for a while. I mean, it's been something that's I think we've had on the back burner. We've kind of, because we've kind of been trying to figure out when the time would be right, and the timing is just right, sir.
It is. It is.
So
Because
yeah.
I have finally finished it. Actually, I finished it a few weeks ago because I was in the middle of watching it even before we started talking about it.
And it was, what was funny is I think when you've brought it, I can't remember if I brought it up or if you brought it up, but right around the time when I was getting back to the podcast, I think it was this May, like middle of the summer. My wife and I, Megan, we were like, hey, why don't we rewatch this? Which I'm more of the geek in the relationship, so I was really surprised. Like, oh, usually you just kind of roll your eyes at anything that's got some goofy stuff going on. But so I was really surprised to hear that. And now it has, now several months on, it has turned Avatar and the sequel series, Legend of Korra, have both ended up in my wife's Netflix series rotation.
Oh, nice.
Alongside The Office and Arrested Development, in terms of just shows that she'll just put on and watch. She's probably finished it. I'm pretty sure she's finished it, both series, like combined, like almost 10 times over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the same way that she would be like, all right, I'm going to rewatch The Office, and she just will have it on while she's just doing stuff, which for me just confirmed that I definitely picked the right horse. And
Absolutely.
And I was like, it was one of those like, because I guess, well, let's kind of get into the big thing. I am much younger. I was actually, when Avatar first aired, I was a young lad. I was in the fifth. I looked it up. I was in the fifth grade when the show first aired. And Mike, this is your first time actually watching the show, correct?
Right. Correct. Yes. I had always been aware of it, but never got around to seeing it until this year. I think I'd mentioned on Facebook that I was currently watching Star Trek: The Next Generation from the beginning, because I have seen a lot of the episodes, but not all of it. And I kept commenting on, oh, wow, I really love how positive and uplifting the series is. Even the darker or sadder episodes, there's always a positive message behind it. And then one of my friends told me that I should check out Avatar because I would have the same feeling watching that I would generally feel better about things. And he was right.
Mm-hmm. And that's a statement that I can't emphasize enough in terms of just being a kind of like a gold standard, not even just for like an animated show, but just a television show in general. It's kind of hard to get past like how perfect the show is, but it's also perfect in its simplicity. Like, there's a lot of great shows that when you really break them down, like, oh, they're very simple premises, or they're very simple, but it's just done so well. Like, there's nothing where you have to kind of scratch your head, like, why did they do this? Why was that made? It's like everything was just, you can see, like, you definitely get the feeling after going through all three seasons, or all three books, if we're going to be, for all those nerds. but you definitely get the sense of just like they knew, like, we know what the story is from start to finish. We're not trying to make up stuff. We're not trying to. We know how we're going to introduce it. We know where these characters are. Where we're going to show you where these characters begin, and we know how everything's going to end. And that's very rare. I mean, you could cite. I mean, the best example I could think of to cite would be Game of Thrones in terms of just, well, idea where we're going to begin, but we have no clue where we're going to end. Or like a How I Met Your Mother, where, well, we know how we're going to end, but we're going to drag it out so much that kind of ruins the point of the whole show.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But I digress.
It seems like everything was perfectly planned and plotted out, and I loved it. It's such an easy watch too.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is it just every episode, it really does flow. Like the first 3 episodes work together as one big like little mini movie, and then after that it turns into a little bit of adventure of the week. But
right.
even still, like it'd be very, like when me and Megan were first rewatching it, we're like, oh, maybe we'll just do we'll do 2 or 3 episodes tonight, and then we'll hit the hay. About 7 episodes later, be like, we're only about a couple away from the end of this book. Let's just finish it then. But no, it really does have it. It is one of those. It really does have this sort of magnetic, magnetic quality to it. Before this kind of like we'll call it the new era of where it's on pretty much every other day. Avatar is on pretty much every other day. My last time watching the show fully was like, I think maybe in college, like my sophomore year. I remember one summer when I was living down here, I just kind of watched it on like, again, they didn't have it on Netflix at that time. I think I had to go through some, it was like Go Cartoons or something like that. It was some website where it's like, people just like had ripped DVDs and they put all these shows on there.
Oh, okay.
Which we did, before the Netflix era.
Right.
But what would you say what is the biggest thing or the biggest element of the show in your mind that, like, what's one of your favorite aspects of it?
Well, there's a lot, but I think one of the main things I loved about the show, and I'm sure a lot of people agree, was Zuko's redemption arc. Mm-hmm. It is definitely one of the best redemption arcs I have ever seen in a show that I can remember. I just remember, I forget which episode it is, but it's early on in season 1 when you find out how Zuko got the scar, and it crushed me. It devastated me when you find out that it was his father that did that, and not only that, but he did that on purpose. And that's when I found myself kind of rooting for Zuko. I didn't know for sure if there would be a redemption arc or not, but I kind of, just from that moment alone, I saw him in a different light. And that's what I appreciated about the show, is they add so many layers to like almost all the characters.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is because my brain it soaks up information like this like a sponge. The episode you're thinking of is Book 1, Chapter 12, The Storm.
Yes, it's The Storm. Yes.
See, if there was a trivia night where it was just like random pop culture facts, like just out of the blue, not I'd be your guy. But no, I mean, but yeah, Zuko's whole character arc. The one thing I don't think this is kind of like, I've heard this term before, a cold take, where it's not the opposite of a hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised, like, Zuko's whole character arc from book 1 to book 3 is, in my mind, it is kind of like the backbone of the show. Like, right. It is this emotional core. That's not to say that none of the other characters have have terrible arcs. They have perfect arcs. Yeah. But in terms of just like, I think for a animated show in general around that time, and even today, it's very hard to find anything that I think is equivalent to that.
Right.
Or equivalent to how well they pulled it off. Because I think, yeah, no, that's it's one of those things you're probably going to hear a lot in this episode of just like how great it is, but it's going to be very hard. Like I'd be very hard pressed to find faults in any of the episodes or in any of the series.
Yeah, I don't think there's one bad episode, and
No.
in fact, especially when you do a when I did my rewatch of it a few weeks ago, I appreciated it even more. Even like the stuff like that were kind of various episodes, like the Tales of Ba Sing Se and Appa's Lost Days, where they were kind of their own separate thing.
Yeah, no, that was actually one. Because like I've seen people online, there's like the weakest episode, most disappointing. It's like the show is still even during its like filler episodes, it's still very entertaining and very just like easy to watch. I think the only one that I could kind of come up when I was sort of prepping for tonight's episode, and this is I think generally considered amongst the fan base as like the weakest episode of the whole show. It would probably be the Great Divide, mainly because if and I guess spoilers for the whole show, but it's even brought up during the Ember Island Players episode of like there's the Great Divide. Let's just keep going on past it. So, even that episode, because again, I don't really skip it. I see why people don't really like it, because it sort of ends on a, what did we learn kind of note.
Right.
But even still, I get what they were trying to go for. It's definitely, I think, the most undercooked in terms of just like, well, you got an idea for what you're trying to do, but I think somewhere along the line there wasn't someone there to sort of like kind of bring it all home. They sort of just, because I think the ending of that episode is just like you have like a Hatfields and McCoys type situation.
Right.
And I think Aang solves it all by just telling them like, oh yeah, your two stories why you hate each other, yeah, they're all BS. And that's revealed, oh yeah, that story I told them was BS. So
yeah, no, I can agree with that one. I mean, I didn't have a problem with that episode, but it's definitely not one of the ones that kind of sticks out in my mind. In fact, I was trying my best to remember it until you just explained him talking to the two different sides. I'm like, oh, it was that episode. Okay, that's the one we're talking about.
Like even because and I don't want to focus on the series, what the fans have deemed the series low point, but even that episode still has some positive things. I can think of like the two background stories. I think were like when they're each tribes like telling like why they hate the other side. I think they're done like different animation styles. Like it's again, nothing in this show was done like half-assed. Everything was like very creatively and very thought out.
Yeah, if there's anything that's considered a low point in that show, I would think any other series would be thankful to have that sort of a like what they would consider low quality, because I didn't think any of it was low quality, to be honest. I thought it was all really good.
And I think you're exactly right. And to kind of, I wanted to bring this up earlier when you're bringing about the rewatching TNG, because I've kind of done that a little bit, but the season 1 and 2, man, there's a lot of stinkers in TNG. Like I think I'm on one where they have like these like Irish in space, like they're like, so which I'm like.
But I don't know. I still watched it and went, this is wonderful. This is fantastic.
Yeah, no, but you got stuff like that. But then there's like the really good episodes, like, oh yeah, that's so good. But here with this show, I think there is one of those things where it's like it's just baseline great and just has moments of this like pure perfection. Like I've never thought, like, I don't think there ever is a dip in quality at any point, which is I think it is so rare to see that. Again, I think I've mentioned it before, but just again, people being allowed to come up with an idea for a story and being able to tell it thoroughly from start to finish.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I will say the not the great thing, but kind of like the interesting thing is with the creators of this show, you both have, it's weird. You have examples of like when the whoever was in charge allowed them to make a story and tell it how they want to, and then with Last Airbender, and then if you start, I think on Facebook, have you started Korra a little bit?
Yes, I did. I'm only a few episodes in. I think I'm maybe 5 or 6 episodes into it.
Okay, of book one. Okay.
Yeah, book 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's a lot you can read up about that. I won't. And again, I'm not going to harp on it too much. But that when it came to the differences, Last Airbender. Okay, I know I'm getting all this. Probably I do apologize to the listeners at home. But Last Airbender, they were allowed to make it all 3 seasons. They had it planned out perfectly. They knew, okay, when we're going to start, when we're going to finish. Great. Korra, okay, well, we're going to make just one spin-off season. Kind of like a little mini series. You guys want a second season? Oh, okay, well, we weren't planning on that, but okay, well, let's see if we can do that. Oh, you guys are going to you guys want 2 more seasons? Well, okay, let's plan something further. Oh, and then halfway through 2, you're going to like cut our budget in half and flip us around different nights and eventually end up only online. That's how they aired the last season.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Which is a damn shame because I think you're really going to like 3 and 4 because those were made kind of back to back, so they had a chance to actually plan an arc over 2 seasons versus just versus like, well, what can we do next? But that's a different conversation for a different day. But Korra is good. Korra's my short review of it is it's a mixed bag. I think there's the greats are great, but this is like it does have some dips in terms of just like, oh, wish the characters were a little bit smarter here.
Right. Yeah.
I'll leave that for you to discover. We'll have you report back to our culture. The culture.
Oh yeah.
Cast.
No, that's fine. I've gone into Korra with the just not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, but so far I'm enjoying it. I think it definitely has more of maybe an adult feel to it, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. I think it's of its time. I think because it was made. I think Korra started in 2012 because I actually watched it as the episodes were airing. As the episodes actually came on. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to wait until it's over and then rewatch it. Because again, I was the lonely guy in college who watched cartoons in his dorm room.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Perfectly natural, especially if you're only in your underwear.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but you put that out there, so I guess it's out there.
Yeah, but I will say, kind of like, and again, you can still see this nowadays. There's very, very much a sense of who is a show made for, and Korra, I feel, is definitely made for those little kids. Mm-hmm. Like me who watched Last Airbender when they were, again, 10 or 12 in 5th grade. And then they grew up and kind of went to, started going to college. Because it was very much kind of like, it wasn't necessarily made for like, people like that same age group. It was made for like those kids who got older. Like it was kind of like how a lot of the Pixar movies, I don't kind of go over the place, but a lot of the newer Pixar movies, they're kind of like, if you read like Toy Story 4, I think the one where the monsters were in college, very much right. I feel there's messages that kind of apply more to the kids that they first showed those movies to.
Right, yeah.
Which it's kind of, it's like a weird meta thing. It's like, think if you don't have that context, I'm not sure if it hits as hard. I think it's still good, but it's like one of those, like, it adds a little something extra, like, oh yeah, we grew up with these, and now these movies are telling us to, hey, time to grow up, kiddies.
Yeah, I think what I like about Korra so far is it's just kind of interesting to find out where some of the characters that you know and love from Avatar: The Last Airbender, like what came of them afterwards.
Yeah, spoilers for my wife's reaction to Korra, and I'm sure if she's hearing this, she's probably going to barge into the room. But the moment you see when older Katara is like talking to Korra, my wife just broke down and started crying, started sobbing. But she was like, I was like, oh no, you're gonna make me cry.
Well, that's what these shows do to you. They just they get you like that, and it just means that's how well done they are.
Well, and this is kind of one. And the main thing I would say is, not only how well they're done, but how well there's a timelessness. That's her, by the way.
Hello.
There's a timelessness to all these characters, even just like all the one-off side characters. I can still remember and kind of like if you show me an image, I could probably tell you like, oh yeah, what episode they're from, what they knew how to make these characters distinct. Now it's actually going to be kind of one of the things I wanted to ask you about.
Sure.
Which one would you say, who is your favorite character and why is it Toph?
Toph is awesome. Mm-hmm. Although my favorite character has to be Uncle Iroh. I love Uncle Iroh. I have such a soft spot for him.
It's hard to go. It's hard. I mean, I will say that it's kind of one of those. There's a lot of great characters, and I do feel like Iroh always pops up on the top of those lists, just because he is just absolutely the perfect like mentor figure that I think everybody wants to actually have in their real life.
Yeah,
always.
And he has such great scenes, and just like you said, Toph, like the scene with him and Toph is fantastic.
Well, and yeah, the way and it's just, I think the great thing is like the show first, kind of the basic set of the show is like, okay, Fire Nation bad, they're all horrible, they're destroying the world, and then our first two characters that we actually meet that are Fire Nation, we have Zuko, who kind of, bit of a hothead, fits the, the role, or kind of like how we feel. He's kind of meeting those expectations that that Katara's introduction already gives the Fire Nation, and then you have chill as hell Uncle Iroh sitting there
with his tea,
have some tea. His tea. He's like, Zuko's like, there he is. That's gotta be Avatar. It's probably the Northern Lights, man. Just come on, sit back,
relax, Prince Zuko. Have some tea with me.
This is a pleasure cruise, man. Just sit back.
I think we all need an Uncle Iroh in our life.
And he definitely, and again, going back to like a lot of the world influences with, a lot of anime and martial arts films, sort of influencing it. I think Iroh fits in that sort of, that old master of just like, he doesn't have to be super violent. Like he can just do a few quick moves, and he's taking out the entire room. Mm-hmm. Like he's very wise, but he could also kick your ass at a moment's notice.
He's also good at holding on to secrets, even if they make him look bad. Like when they thought he had killed the last dragons, that turned out not to be the case.
Yeah, no. Well, it was that. And I'm not going to say that's a negative. I'm not going to say it's a negative thing because it totally fits within Iroh's character. But they definitely I definitely go into that episode. I definitely like the setup for it, where Zuko's like, my uncle's complicated. It's like that kind of made him a little bit more interesting. Like, he did have this sort of dark, where he kind of like, where he kind of got caught up with all the propaganda and stuff like that. But no, it was, and I'm glad it was kind of like, we don't want to go full on like, he was kind of a bit of a dick, but no, he was always just kind of, Iroh was always Iroh, even if he was a general in the Fire Nation. There was always still that little bit of him that had that humanity and that sort of kind of like zeal for life, which I think, again, still, I think if he's not one of the greatest like mentor figures or just kind of like cool older people in fiction, I'd be very hard pressed to find a different, like anyone who sort of tops him in all of like the pop culture ionosphere, where it's just like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, anytime I feel down, I will go on Google and I will look up Uncle Iroh quotes, and then I immediately feel better. I'm like, oh, okay, well, everything's fine. Just chill out. It's okay.
Well, I think again, because my brain has a bunch of like useless factoids. Is it still with useless factoids?
That's fine, because like I said, I've only seen the series twice, so I still feel like a novice. I'm sure I'm not doing the series any justice.
Oh no, that's why I will say that was one of the reasons I was very excited about this. I was like, okay, cool. I get to experience someone who's seeing this with a fresh set of eyes, because I've, in terms of just like someone, and that's why I'm really excited. That's why this is probably going to go down as one of my personal favorite episodes. Not to give myself too much of a pat on the back. But my little sort of factoid. So the voice actor for Iroh was an actor by the name of Mako.
Right. Yes.
Who I think one of the bigger role. I think he's like one of those character actors, been in a lot of like like Hong Kong or like Asian martial arts movies. I think one of his more notable roles in live action. You've seen the original Conan, right, with Schwarzenegger?
A long time ago.
He's the narrator.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's
very cool.
And I think the other big role they sort of played around the same time, like, because the early 2000s were like prime for like, if you're a little boy, 10, 12, this was like the best time for if you wanted to watch action, like action shows or action cartoons. Because I think around this time that Avatar was airing, I think I have to look it up to be exact, but I'm pretty sure Samurai Jack was around. Do you know what that is?
Very familiar with it. It's another one of those shows I have on my list. I just never got around to seeing it.
Like I said, definitely keep it on there.
Okay.
So do not. But I will say I'm sure anyone if you've seen the main thing in Samurai Jack, the villain that show, Aku, was also voiced by Mako at the same time.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of like this. As a kid, you kind of got this interesting sort of back and forth. You're like, oh, cool. He's Iroh. He's so good and wise, and giving all these wonderful like life advice, self-help quotes. And then on the opposite end, you have him as Aku, who's kind of like a little bit goofy, but also sort of sinister. Shape-shifting master of darkness. So again, for a kid, it's one of those moments where you're sort of like, you kind of understand, like, you kind of realize, oh yeah, this guy does this and he does that. That's crazy. Again, 10-year-old brain.
Right.
Yeah, that's the kind of I want to say closing, but kind of like in just terms of like the characters in general, because they're even like I think that's what one of the things I think is why Avatar sticks around is these characters are very timeless. Mm-hmm. Like they're not giving any slang that sort of dates them or anything like that. Like it's very like these are very kind of like characters I think will, like, even 20 years from now, from when we're recording this, I think people will still kind of be attached to these characters, and no one's going to be like, oh, this is so dated or this or that. I think there is such a timelessness, and that's very hard to find, like in most shows.
It really is.
Like I was kind of thinking, like, now that I'm thinking it over, the absolute closest thing that I can think of that dates any of these characters to a specific time period. Well, okay, two we'll call it 1.5 things. The main one that I was going to get to happened in the episode Bossing Say, or not Bossing Say, Tales from Bossing Say. Yeah. It was during Sokka's little bit.
The haiku?
The haiku, where it turns into, like, again, it's the early 2000s, so of course we have to have a rap battle in there somehow. Which, that if I had to pick the low points of Last Airbender, well, I say low points on a technical scale, but, like, in terms of personal enjoyment, yeah, why not? Have them have a little haiku rap battle. Why not?
It teaches kids how to do haiku.
Yeah. But that's probably the only thing that I would say that really dates the show to any one particular era, just that early 2000s, like, hey, hip-hop, we're going to incorporate a rap into our show to make us hip with kids.
Which is fine, because in that episode, because I can't remember if it's before or after. I think it was before. Of course, you see the tale of Iroh, which just completely devastates you. And so it was kind of nice to see something a little lighthearted after that.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I don't know if this is necessarily a controversial take. Don't get me wrong. Love it. The episode's great. I will say, if it did not have Iroh's bit, it would just be an okay episode.
I agree with that.
Like, it is. I mean, just when you compare what the other characters are kind of going through, like, they're just these small little, just sort of day-to-day activities, like, or little mini adventures. But yeah, Iroh's little kind of like whole day in that episode, man, it just hits you. I mean, when he starts crying, I think that's when I start to lose it too.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be very hard pressed to find someone who could watch that and not get a little misty eyed.
I watched it a second time thinking, oh, it's not going to happen this time. Nope, wrong. Oh, great. That's in my eye. Okay. All right.
Well, it's kind of, and unfortunately, that is one of those things where kind of like the real sort of like, the behind the scenes sort of like impacts the actual show itself, because unfortunately Mako did pass away. Yeah. And I think it was, I mean, and I'm sure, like, they didn't, when they're writing this stuff, they're like, oh yeah, and then our actor is going to die in real life. No, they're not going to have that in mind, but it is one of those things where, in terms of like a tribute to someone, in terms of what they can do or bring to a performance, and I do consider voice acting a performance. I think you can't. I mean, that's almost like the perfect little swan song ending to someone's career. But I am glad that that's not the last episode of the season. So we still have Mako around before they switch off to. They switch off to another voice actor, Greg Baldwin, who does a very good Iroh impression. Like, yes. I think I heard this in a review a while back, but someone pointed out, so I kind of remembered this. They were like, it was a good idea for them not to have Iroh speak for a while when we get back into book 3. Because you kind of forget a little bit of what he's supposed to sound like. Yeah, in fact,
that's how I found out that he had died. Because I was like, oh, they're keeping him really quiet in this episode. Did something happen? So, yeah, I did look it up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the original voice actor passed away by now.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I don't think that was ever... I mean, it works well for the story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is kind of one of those... It makes that transition easier. It's kind of... Instead of like... If it was just like one episode you sound like this, next episode you sound different, like, hey, what's going on here?
Right. I will say I was nervous as hell when I did find out that it was a different voice actor, because I was just cringing. I'm like, oh God, when is he going to speak? When is he going to speak? Because it's just, you're so used to the original voice actor. But then when I heard him, I'm like, oh no, actually this is good. This is okay. We can work with it. This is good. This is okay.
Yeah, it is one of the, like, it is one of those, like, it is one of the, and again, going back to moments that that emotionally devastate me when in the finale, the 4-part finale, when Zuko meets Iroh, and
oh God, another one I cannot.
Yeah, no.
I will never be able to watch that without like getting teary-eyed, and
No,
I will admit that up front. I don't care.
Well, one of my personal, like, emotional weak points, like, if you really want to get to me, is any sort of father and son thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, just anytime that's shown on screen, it just will wreck me from the inside. Which Nick would know this. Like, the first season of the CW's Flash was pretty much half the scenes are like that. So yeah, that's why I like that show. But no, and that's probably, I would say, there's a lot of great Zuko Iroh moments. That is, I think there's a reason that the sort of their reunion is one of the highlights, and I'm glad that they did. Again, despite what real world behind the scenes stuff was going on, I'm glad they were able to still nail that, even though it is someone else. You know, they were able to keep that, because I think a lot of it is that, you know, you get that sort of I don't want to say chemistry, but kind of like, you know, these two actors and how they work work the characters off each other. So I'm glad they were still able to make that stick, even with there being that change.
Yeah, I agree. And I think another scene that always gets me with Iroh and Zuko is when Zuko is he's trying to take Appa back, because he thinks he can lure the Avatar back, and then Iroh sees what's going on, and he gives Zuko this big lecture about who he has to find out who he is, and that's another scene that really gets to me too.
And I know we're in the other thing I'll say, I know we've been talking about a lot about Iroh's wisdom and stuff like that. The other thing in reviewing the show is all the little funny jabs they put in that probably went over my head as a kid. Like, I think some of the better ones I didn't. There was one that I never noticed as a kid, but rewatching it this most recent time, I never picked up on it. It's the episode where they introduce the bounty hunter girl with like the giant anteater.
Oh, right. Yes.
And it's kind of funny because it's like literally Iroh and Zuko are kind of going through the past couple filler episodes, like they're stopping the different villages. And the one joke I never got as a kid, but it was like the fourth show is like, "Hey there, handsome, do you want to know what your future holds?" And he's like, "Lady, at my age, there's only one mystery left, and I would like to keep it that way." And I realized, oh God, he's trying to find out he doesn't want to know when he's going to die. Which I was like, I completely missed that as a young lad. But I was like,
right.
That's dark, but that's hilarious. And I think also in that same episode, that's where I think June is the name of the bounty hunter. She gets poisoned, and Iroh catches her, and both Zuko and June get paralyzed. Iroh kind of catches June, and he pretends to be paralyzed. So he's like, Zuko's like, "Uncle, I didn't see you get hit by the tongue." He just looks at him and goes,
He kind of winks too, I think.
Yeah. That's great.
Hey, Iroh's human. What can you say?
Again, there's a reason. I think there's a reason why fans of the show and people who may not have begun, or people who are just getting into show like yourself, again, gravitate towards them, because he's as close to a perfect character as you can get.
He really is. And also, I forgot, in Tales of Ba Sing Se, there was another part of that episode I really liked, was Zuko. It was him basically going on a date, and his uncle was trying to kind of orchestrate, like, you have to go on a date with this person.
Right.
And it was just really nice and kind of sentimental. I liked it. And at the end, like, Iroh's like, so how was it? And Zuko just slams the door, but then he opens it and says, it was really nice. And then he closes the door. That was really nice. I appreciated that.
And that's the only other thing that I will say. Zuko's a great character.
Right. Yes.
Great character, but man, they definitely leaned into a lot of those emo kid moments with him.
Yeah.
Where he's like, everyone's against me. No one understands my feeling. Like, this kid's about like one guitar and a Weezer album away from writing some songs why he's mad at his dad.
True. Although I will give him a little room for that. His father did burn his face, so I gotta kind of give him some leeway on that.
Unlike most pop punk rock stars, he actually has a legit reason to hate his family.
He really does. Anytime somebody says, "Hey, why do you hate your dad so much?" He just has to point to his face, and it's okay, all right.
And just kind of going off that, we focused a lot on Iroh and Zuko, but kind of going to the other half of Zuko's family tree, we gotta bring up Azula.
One of the greatest villains ever. Oh my, she is just terrifying, but so well done. And it just, I get scared. I would get scared every single time she would show up in a scene because I'm like, oh no, some shit's gonna go down right now.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of those. Again, the creators knew exactly how to pace and build everything up, because there's even because she comes into play a lot in books 2 and 3, but she gets a lot of little hints or little things built up to her. Like, I think she's in the background of Zuko's Agni Kai with his dad, and I think she gets name dropped a few times beforehand. But yeah, no, she is wonderfully evil, just despicably, perfectly evil.
Right.
There's again, I've said this before, but I don't even know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
That's okay. No, in fact, in a way, I would even in a comparison thing, my only complaint about the series, and it's a very minor one, is I kind of wished her father, the Fire Lord, I wished he was a little more layered. It just seems like he was just straight out evil and not complicated at all. Yet you have Azula, who, yes, she is very evil, but she's very complicated and insane.
And I think there, and I totally agree with you. I think they try to start doing that. Like, in the first 2 seasons, they kind of kept the Fire Lord always in shadow. You never saw his face. He really was this ominous end-all, be-all threat.
Like Dr. Claw and Inspector Gadget.
Exactly. Exactly like Dr. Claw. But I think they were going to, it feels like at one point they were going to try to do that more. Because like when Zuko actually goes home back to the Fire Nation, and he actually gets to meet his father, it's kind of, we finally get to see his face. He's just a dude. Just a normal looking dude, not a monster, just a guy. And they kind of, I mean, for most of the show, even after that point, they never really show like any sort of other side of his like humanity or anything like that.
That's what that's really my only complaint about the series. I would have loved, even if it was just half an episode or just one episode, just seeing him before he got to that point.
Yeah, because they definitely sort of shoehorn that into like the finale, where it's like, Aang, you're going to have to kill the Fire Lord. They really harp that home. It's almost, and then the moment that kind of really shows like, well, where it's like, okay, well, we really didn't build this up. Hey, why don't we show a picture of him as a baby? There you go. Boom.
There we go. There.
And then it starts pulling into that argument here online of like, you had a time machine, you go back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? It's like, well, that's a loaded question now. Um,
True. And I will say Mark Hamill does an excellent job as always. There's nothing that man can't do when it comes to like voice acting. He's just amazing. So my beef is not with him and by any stretch of the imagination.
I think the biggest problem is because at that point in the show they'd already introduced, for all of book 2 and for books 2 and 3, Azula is arguably the main villain.
Right, yes.
And I think it's very much like, well, we've seen what someone who's really cold, really calculating, really evil looks like. It's like, at that point, it's like, well, all we have to compare you to now is Azula, and Azula is pretty hard to beat. I mean, I'm not sure how much more eviler we could try to go with someone before it gets to be absurd, but it's like she writes that line just so perfectly because objectively looking at it, it's a 16-year-old girl who, commands armies and took down an entire kingdom just because or led a coup that took down the entire kingdom. Objectively, that's kind of silly, but in the show itself, they played off like, she, as she says, you were never even a player. Mm-hmm. And it's in, sorry, getting all tongue-tied here, but no, it is, no, there's really not much more I could say more about Azula besides the fact that it is.
And also with her, the other motivation with her was, and it could be argued she was wrong about this, but she was always under the perception that her mom hated her and thought she was a monster. So she kind of thought like, okay, you think I'm a monster, I guess I should grow into this part of being a monster then. Yeah,
and they did, and again, kind of going into the, kind of going off a little bit of what I was saying before, where it was like, well, the Fire Lord, he was always kind of an afterthought, and like, oh yeah, in the last couple episodes, we're really going to try to make this more of a conflict for Aang. But, for Azula, they really sort of built up that sort of, in the last few episodes, they really kind of built up that, okay, now she's really going to descend into madness as she starts losing.
Which I loved. That was just, wow, that was fantastic.
Yeah, I think when she lost her, I think when she lost the support of her friends, and then really, and I think the moment wherein like she was like, "What? I can't go burn down the world with you, Dad." I think that's when you could really, you see this how. So, because I think that was her main thing. She was always in control, always kind of like,
oh yeah,
she knew how to react in every situation. And I think that's what made her. I think that's what made it so kind of. I would say uncomfortable, like one of those like something's not right here, where like she starts going a little, where she starts getting super paranoid. Again, I think what I'm trying to say is a great descent of a villain into just like
absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, that was my only, if you can even call it a complaint with the show, was just I think she definitely overshadows the Fire Lord. I just think she's a far more interesting villain.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if like there was a way to make the Fire Lord more. The only thing you could have done is just had more scenes where, with him not being like totally 100% evil all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I think if he did a couple more things like that, I think that could have made the final showdown a little bit more interesting. But instead, he's just. But I think you kind of need that in a show like this. You need sort of like, okay, this is someone who's objectively evil.
Right, he's the ultimate evil driving force that you have to defeat. Otherwise, everything's gonna end.
Right. You need your Emperor Palpatine. You need someone who's just there's just nothing to be redeemed here. This is a bad dude.
Right. But and like I said, like with everybody else, I feel like they do a really good job. Even in the it might have been the third to last episode of the final book, when Katara finally gets to face the man who killed her her mother. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And even like again, okay, this is a guy who killed her mother. So you're thinking, okay, this guy's going to be super evil. But then when you see him, he's just so pitiful and weak, and his mom's yelling at him.
He's the Avatar equivalent of a basement dweller.
Yes.
He lives at home.
Yes, mother.
Yes, yes, mom.
Please take my mom. We'll call it even. But it's just, like I said, that's an example of, yes, this guy did something really awful and horrible, yet even in that small moment, you still got to see a little bit of his humanity.
Right. And I think that was, again, the strength of the whole show is it very much starts off, the show definitely starts off very much in a very clear black and white dichotomy. You have Aang, Sokka, and Katara being like unequivocally good, nothing really bad there. And then you have Zuko and Iroh and the Fire Nation being like unequivocally the bad guys, nothing redeemable here. And then as it goes on, it chips away a little bit of that. It makes everything a little bit more gray. You know, not too much where you're like, you know, where you're really where it's like kind of like questioning everything, but it's like, you know, Katara, like especially in that episode you're talking about. I mean that was because earlier in that season they introduced the idea of again, great idea, blood bending.
That's a great episode, and it was an uncomfortable and eerie episode too. Yeah. I think it was called The Puppet Master.
Yep. And in the end of that episode, you see Katara so racked with guilt about being able to bloodbend and, you know, having this cursed gift. But in the Puppet Master, she's just straight on, I don't care, I'm going to hurt you. Which again, that's just such a great sort of like, again, blurring the lines, especially for not even just a kid show, but for just any sort of show, like where you're taking your main character and having them do some sort of questionable things. But again, that's what turns a good show into a great show.
Yeah, and another character who was kind of like that, Jet, who was really awful at the beginning of the series, and then you end up kind of feeling for him later on.
Yeah, that Jet would. I feel like the show didn't know what to do with Jet. You know, like the first time we get him introduction, like he's everything you need to know about him sort of in that episode. Like, hey, he's a freedom fighter, but he's kind of taking it to some extremes. And then when they reintroduced him, then I don't want to say he just didn't really become nearly as interesting as the show wanted us to think he was. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because then his goal is, he works with Zuko a little bit. He's like, hey, you should join up with us. And then he sees that Iroh firebend his, firebend his cold tea.
Poor Uncle Iroh, he just wants his tea. That's all he wants. Leave the man alone. Just let him have his hot tea.
Yeah, then Jet's goal is like, I'm gonna expose him. I'm gonna
get you.
Yeah, no, but they definitely did some. I will say this, especially where they decided to take Jet's character, because they kind of hinted like, oh yeah, Fire Nation killed my parents, and they showed that a little bit in like a flashback near the end. But yeah, they just never really. I think they gave some more time to him, or if they. He's a good again. Great side. He's a good side character, but I do feel like the show kind of like sort of just tossed him back into the adventure. They're like, well, we need to have Iroh and Zuko have some sort of conflict while they're in Ba Sing Se.
Oh no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Although I will say the Jet's ending, because I remember, or Jet's death, because the show.
I'm gonna say death.
Yeah, because I mean, even the show itself brings up like, so did Jet die? We don't know.
Yeah, although I will go. I think Toph was right, because she was the one who said he's lying when he said he was going to be okay. So that's what I took that as. Yeah, he's not going to be there anymore.
I think and to be honest, I think that's a case of like some higher up executive being like, you can't kill a kid on screen.
Yes, no, I agree.
he could be he could be injured, but he could make it.
Yeah. So then that way the parents can be like, well, no, we don't know. He could have been okay.
Yeah. So, but that's one of the. But again, even though I'm sure that's what the and there are a couple little moments of like it's not anything like too graphic. Like I don't want to see. I don't need a graphic Last Airbender where like people are getting like crunched up against rocks or anything like that. We want to keep it light and fun.
Right. Yeah.
But there are some definitely moments where like a lot of the phrasing they use is weird. Like I think there was one. Well, Jet's final scene in the show is kind of one of them, where it's like, okay, they're probably doing this because they can't show a kid actually dying,
right?
Or a character dying like that. But I think there was one where it was right at the beginning of book 3 where Aang is sort of realizing that he didn't just get knocked out; he was actually dead. And he's like, I wasn't just passed out; I was gone. It's like,
yeah.
Well, just say you died. You were dead briefly. But then I think later on the show they use like you're going to have to kill the Fire Lord. So it was like weird. It's like, well, you could kind of say that stuff, but you kind of say death and die and you have to kill, but we have to. It's like very sparingly.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things I noticed watching it.
I agree with that. They probably, I would have to guess, they probably were okay with them saying you have to kill him because they knew they weren't gonna kill the Fire Lord at the end. Spoiler, right. Sorry.
Yeah, this is a decade-old show that's on Netflix. Go watch it, people.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah. You can rewatch. You can rewatch episodes of The Office for those go away. I'm gonna start. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff to bring up, and I got a few things I do want to bring to that I do want to discuss. Before we as we burn the midnight oil.
Fire away.
Okay. So one of the things I've heard this tossed around a lot. I don't know if you in kind of going on Reddit or going online kind of reading up on the show. I've heard some people describe Avatar: The Last Airbender as my generation's or this kind of generation's Star Wars in terms of just being like that idea that's so unique and so original or so unique to like a time period or to like a cultural experience in terms of how timeless the stories are. Agree or disagree?
Well, I agree, and because I think it's better than Star Wars, and I will put this disclaimer up front. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, so there you go. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's I would compare it to that.
And then I think the main thing why a lot of people, and I've kind of had this thought before of like why some shows are just that good, or why they stick with people, generations apart, like why those stories why people still like to come back to rewatch those stories. In my wife's case, 10 times over. I
hope to get there at some point too. I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna get to 10. I'm getting there.
I'll keep a tally going. But I think there is a beautiful simplicity to like very basic stories, but that are told with such a passion and told in a way that are retold in such a way that it's hard to like pick them apart. Like there's some shows and there's some movies where you're like, well, that was dumb. Didn't really make much sense. But I think that's the reason why there are some ideas that you wish you could have come up with, like in Last Airbender or like a Star Wars. And I think the big one or the big comparison a lot of people make is the ending of Book 2 to the ending of Empire. Mm-hmm. In terms of just like the big thing is the villains win and the heroes lose.
Absolutely.
And I think
yes.
And I think that's because it's very much a similar setup to how this first season ends in terms of like, okay, we're in a big new city. We got bad guys are kind of like right around the we're up against insurmountable odds, but hey, Aang's going to go into the Avatar state. We're going to win this, and then nope, it's a nice role reversal.
Yes.
And I think that's definitely, I think that's a benefit of this show being kind of like sort of planned. Again, I've brought this up so many times, I've probably lost count, but just of it being planned out where they're probably like, okay, so 3-act structure, 3-season structure. We got end season 2 as sort of our character's lowest points.
Mm-hmm.
Because even Zuko, even though he won, he's like, well, I lost Iroh in all this,
right?
So
yeah,
kind of don't feel so good about that.
And I do have a quick thing to add to that after you're done.
But yeah, I think it was I think that's one of the things that, again, I've said, what elevated the show from being a good show to a great show, to moments of greatness, was just kind of like having this, I want to say bravery, because that's a little hyperbolic, but having this kind of like, we're going to commit to actually having a really sort of dark ending where our heroes are not always going to come out on top.
Right. No, I agree. And the other thing I wanted to add real quick, which I did appreciate in that episode, was Zuko's transformation. At first, he seemed super goody-goody. I was like, oh, okay, he's just a good guy all of a sudden. I mean, there was a part of me that was happy. I was like, oh, great. But the storyteller in me was like, oh, this seems like it's a little too easy.
Yeah.
So I was actually thrilled and somewhat relieved when I saw that's not the direction they're going, and he was still going to have to struggle with that inner fight with himself. Because at first I'm like, wow, they're really going out of their way to make him goody-goody.
Yeah, it was very much kind of like,
hey, Uncle, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah. There's a part of him that you just feel like he's gritted his teeth, like, I hate this. Like, I'm smiling. I'm getting through this. I'm in the tea shop now. We got to just focus on the tea shop.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if they had more of that moment, don't get me wrong, it's very well built up. I like the preceding, because building up to this, one, you've been kind of using the blue spirit persona, to kind of like steal his way and kind of like, ninja his way through situations.
Mm-hmm.
Which, side note, whenever Zuko kind of like had the dual swords and the mask, he was always somehow a better fighter than just him, in like his bulky armor, just trying to like firebend his way out of situations. But that's just my own personal side. But I will say the build up to that, where he's like, they go back home and he's kind of like having this, they show that sort of internal struggle that's going on inside, where it's like, oh, it's an illness, but it's an illness of the mind. I was like, one, top tier, just very well done. But in terms of like, again, because I was built up right before the last episode of that book, I think it would have been more interesting if we had Zuko more as if that was done a little, oh, hey, this day, today's going to be a great day, and there's no way that I'm going to go back to my old ways. I think if it was like that for a little bit long, or if it was implied that, he was kind of that way for more than just, the day before.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
But I'm trying to, man, I will say that, sorry, but
there's so much to talk about with this show. It's just, I'm sorry, people. It's impossible for us to talk about everything, because I know we're going to get offline and I'm going to be like, oh, I should have talked about that. Oh, what about that episode? It's so good. And there's just so many different layers to it. It's impossible to get through all of it in one episode tonight.
No, and I think there's going to be, I think when part 2 comes out, I think that's when where more of the appreciation is going to come in. Into play.
Is this the movie? Oh boy, yeah. You're gonna have to give me definitely a fair warning when we're gonna do that one, because I want to watch the movie the day of. I don't want to watch it before. I want to watch it the day of. And I'm warning you right now, I am going to be super drunk because I expect to be super drunk when I'm watching that movie, and I expect to be super drunk when we're recording the episode. So I'm warning you that right now.
I am down with that. No,
Because
I've done that.
And look, I love bad movies. I love bad movies. I can't get enough of them. I've been a huge fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and Riff Tracks now. The Room is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. Neil Breen, I am obsessed with the man. I love bad movies. And there would have been a time where I would have been thrilled to see the Last Airbender adaptation, because it's like, oh, it's a bad movie. I'll be excited about this. But now that I'm invested in the series and that I love these characters, I am not looking forward to this.
It's gonna. No, I trust me. I did this once outside of many years ago with several good buddies of mine down here in Missouri. We did that once, and I think I blacked out after the first 20 minutes because we tried to turn it into a drinking game. And then the drinking game was let's see how long we can chug the bottle before we pass out.
Oh, geez.
Because it was I think we were like, oh, anytime there's a continuity difference or this or that, and then Priya just started to like, hey, that's because it's I have not rewatched it since that fateful night many years ago, but it is most likely going to. I'm probably going to watch it. I hate to say twice, but I feel like once, like sober straight through, and then once probably I may do that just on the day of, because it's going to hurt.
Yeah, I will watch it the day of, and like I said, I am going to be super drunk. I am probably going to be super angry. There's going to be a lot of swearing. I might be threatening some people's lives over having to watch this. I'm putting that out there right now just so everybody's aware.
Well, and I think one of the questions I did kind of want to bring up to you as someone who has this sort of fresh perspective on the show. And I think mainly because history is one of the reasons that Netflix has the I think the rights to Last Airbender and to Korra is they were in talks of making their own live action adaptation of the show, which so far it's in the works. Mm-hmm. The big thing was, and this came out a couple months ago, was that originally when they announced it, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the Brian and Mike, which I think are the two creators behind it. Mm-hmm. They were involved with it, but I think then about maybe like a month or 2 months ago, I think they announced like, yeah, we're no longer a part of this project, which like we're out. Which
that's not good.
Never a good sign. It's kind of like. Did you ever see Ant-Man? The Marvel?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, cool. Edgar Wright's doing that. He's got the pitch for it sounds really fun. And don't get me wrong, I like the movie enough, but I can
right. It's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, but it's not anything. It's not anything that's going to elevate Ant-Man to like, oh man, this is like one of the best movies ever made.
No,
it's like,
right. Yes. Yeah.
So that's kind of. I think I'll be honest, it's probably a best case scenario, but I think the bigger question, and I would love to hear your answer on this: does a live action adaptation matter? Like, does the story what does the story benefit from being retold only relatively not too long ago from when it originally aired, and the fact that it's still very much, it's not like, oh, this is a show from 50 years ago or something like that. This is something that's...
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, does it matter?
No, It doesn't matter to me at all. In fact, I don't see the need for it to be live action. I love the way it's animated. It's a gorgeous looking show, and I feel like what makes Avatar so great. I think you would lose a lot of that if you did a live action version of it, which again is why I'm not excited to see the movie. I know it's a bad movie, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It's just like, I love the movie Akira. I would never want to see a live action version of that.
Well, because there's so much you can do, and I think you're absolutely. I think you've hit the. I'm glad it was kind of almost like a litmus test. Like, okay, let's see where he stands on the.
Oh, I'm glad I passed that.
Yeah, but no, that's kind of. That's. I mean, I could have said it better myself, but because you do in animation, I think you can blend both fantastical elements like a 10-ton, 6-legged flying bison with, regular looking people.
Right.
Where it doesn't look weird versus if you try a real person with something that doesn't look real or would not. Oh God, that's the one.
Distracting.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, I think the biggest thing, because I try to think of like the Harry Potter movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are some long. I mean, as a kid, I mean those are thick books. Like those are really like thick books. There's a lot of and I think those movies do a good job of like, okay, well, we take that story. Let's see if we can try to trim it down to like its basic core elements, and let's get the the best the best version of this that we can put into like a 2.5-hour movie. But when you, I don't know, it's weird because it's the same issue of like taking something that's very long and condensing it, but you can do that easier with like a book where a lot of it's in your head in terms of like, okay, what do things look like? What does this look like? Because like when I read a description of Harry Potter and you read a description of Harry Potter, we get two very different people show up.
Absolutely, yeah.
But when you have something that's where we already know what it looks like, and we already know what the story is. Right.
The standard has already been set, so we already have an expectation of what it should look like.
Well, and going back to like the Star Wars thing, I mean, then the best case scenario is you end up with The Force Awakens, where this is pretty much taking the same story structure of A New Hope, but we changed a few details around so that way it's not exactly a one-to-one. It's not like that Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn, where it's like, okay, it's a shot-for-shot retelling, but it's still like that's your best case scenario. Is you just end up with the same. You end up with something that you end up with the same story over, but retold probably not nearly as well, because again, that's the big issue. Is I know a lot of people go like, oh, there's so many filler episodes, but I think that's I think that a lot of people are starting to. I think Avatar was a trendsetter in terms of being like, okay, a cinematic style TV show. Like a lot of people bring that up of being like this big, having these very cinematic style moments and story and like very mature moments. But at the same time, it still had a very much a monster of the week deal. And I think that cinematic, kind of like, okay, we're a long movie idea of like telling a television show. Mm-hmm. I think that evolved into like, your Netflix binge watch where it's like, okay, Stranger Things is an 8-hour long movie. You can't just watch one episode on its own. They're a serialized part of the story. And I think now we're kind of seeing everything sort of coming full circle. In my opinion, or I see this kind of like there's a little bit of a return to kind of like having more. I think there are some shows now that are starting to do more of a hybrid style that Avatar did, where you do have the serialized story from week to week, but then you also have a lot of these episodes that are filler or like side or like one-offs, right? Where they kind of like they may impact the overall story a little bit, but not in a way that's totally obvious. The main example I can think of that I bring up that I use that for is like The Mandalorian, where that show is very much okay. We have maybe like maybe a couple parts of an episode are connected to the main overall story, but generally the goal of today's episode is unrelated. It's just a little side quest,
right?
from what the main story is.
Yeah, kind of like self-contained.
Exactly.
Which I do kind of miss in shows these days. That was the other thing I kind of liked about going back to Star Trek: The Next Generation. I kind of like the idea that I kind of missed that time where episodes were kind of self-contained. Although you would have the rare maybe one or the 2 or 3-parter every now and then.
Right. I think there's a couple of times in Star Trek. I think mainly where I think the Q episodes are probably the closest I can think of, where it's like, well, it would help if you know what Q has done previously to fuck with Picard this time.
Absolutely, yes.
Or what he's done previously. It makes it better, when you're watching what his latest shenanigans are.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I agree with you, because my main way that I watched Star Trek was, I think they just had reruns on the BBC in just a random order, where it's like I couldn't tell you what season this was from. Like they may flip flop, but definitely with the style that Avatar went with, it was definitely kind of like, because you'll have like these stretches where like we end up in this random Earth Kingdom town village. We have to solve a problem, solve a mystery. But they always did it smart, where even though it was filler, it added something. Like I remember one of the filler episodes was like, okay, well, this is where we introduce the spirits, and even that episode was like was technically a 2-parter, because it just was like, the end of that episode was like Aang me Roku saying, hey, come to my temple on the solstice. I got some info to drop, some knowledge dropping you, son. But yeah, but they still managed to make. I think they still managed to make most of even the filler matter, like in the overall story, because I think a lot, characters would either come back.
Right.
They would always. I think they would always reference something, even from a one-off episode, and I think that's why I think it's the better style of like how to tell a TV show, or like how to do like structure a TV show. I would say, because I think if you have it all just like, well, nothing really matters so much, like nothing that we show now is going to really connect to future events, that's kind of a little older style thinking. But then if you have it where it's like, all these episodes are connecting to one big long movie, that kind of has its own downsides too. Because it's like, well, I can't just really watch. I can't, if I really want the full story, I have to just sit here and just power through the next 10 hours.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of like there's been a couple Netflix shows where it's been like that, where it's like, I guess we could stop here, but I'm feeling kind of like unsatisfied. And then when it finally does end, I'm like, well, that's it. There's no more.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about Avatar. Like, except for, when you would get like closer to the finale of the season, like even though everything's connected, you could still like watch maybe 1 or 2 episodes and then feel okay after that. Like you would still feel like there was still a proper conclusion to it, even if they're still teasing something later on.
Right. Or even if they introduce something, it's like you still have a general you still feel like that was a good story. I can go on with my day. But yeah, that's and that's one of the things I would say. We kind of got into this earlier, but with Korra kind of falls a little bit more into that latter camp, where it does. I think a lot of the season is very much, it is structured more as like a big long movie event, where I think there's not really like a villain of the week. It's more everything is built upon each other. Which I think, again, at that time in the early 2010s, I think there was a lot of shows that were kind of doing. I think that's right around Stranger Things first started, or was Stranger Things 2016? I think it was 16. But I think there was a lot of shows around that time, like 2012 and stuff like that, like really big popular shows that were starting to do. I mean, I could be wrong, but in my opinion, I felt like that's when we started seeing a lot more of that. Okay, we're not just a TV show, we're just a very long movie divided into 10 parts.
Right, yeah.
And I guess the one thing I do want to bring up to you, good sir, what well, we know what for our fans what the future holds for this series that we're talking about of episodes
Which ends
we're
with
making.
me drunk and crying and
Yes,
asking why, why.
It ends with Nick pulling out the rest of his hair, trying to figure out how to edit an incoherent mess. But what would you want to see? What would you want to see from the future of Avatar? Because we've got because in many ways it's a success story. I mean, you got a acclaimed base show. There's a couple of good comics which I need to eventually just go to the library and see if I can just find them and just read them. That way I can say I did. And a sequel series. Where would you want to see Avatar? Since I think we're both out and doing a live action thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think maybe like a short film, like maybe like a short, like not related to any, like maybe take the characters but put them on a one-off non-canonical adventure, or just like what would you want? What does Mike want to see from the future of from Avatar?
See, this is where I'm going to be super boring. I'm going to say I'm pretty happy with where it is right now. I'm so happy with Avatar, the whole series. It's just once I finish it, I'm like, okay, let's watch it again. And that's where I am. I really don't need anything new. Korra is kind of I'm looking at it more as like bonus content for me.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of catching up on some of the older characters. I see it more as bonus content. But I'm so satisfied and happy with how the series was. I really don't have any wishes for anything further, I guess. I know that's the boring answer, but it's just that's how good it was. It's just in my opinion, it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need a live action movie. It doesn't need a live action series. It's just, you want to see Avatar? Here, watch it.
See, that is where you and I differ, because I am a greedy pig, willing to give ideas to our corporate overlords, which
have you not learned from Game of Thrones?
Hey, as long as the check doesn't bounce. No, but I actually I did kind of ponder about when that news came out about the original creators not being involved in live action. I was like, what could they do if they really wanted to make if we really wanted more Avatar? Because I think, and I'm going to probably give the most pedestrian answer. I mean, I've seen some people online come up with their own, like, again, I don't want to say fan theories. What's the word I'm looking for? Fan fiction.
Yeah.
Of like where they're come up with their own Avatar. It's like, okay, I guess that would be the logical one. Probably my more boring answer is, I know and this is on my list of other Avatar related content to eventually get into, but I know there's at least 2 books that were made like a few years back about that focus around Avatar Kyoshi, which is like one of the other previous Avatars that I think a lot of fans like. And I know it's kind of like one of those because one, she's got a great design, like this ninja kabuki warrior look. But 2, those are also books. So it's like, it's not a comic, so there's no images to go alongside with it. It's like, if you're wanting to make another Avatar, that would probably be a good place to start, as we haven't really explored her story. We haven't, I think that if you're going to adapt anything, adapt those books and make it either, if you want to do live action, there's your avenue to do it, or more appropriately, just animate it.
Yeah.
I can see people. I think, for me at least, that would probably be something that I would actually genuinely be interested in seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know how old the original voice actors are. I'm pretty sure it's one of those cases where it's like adults voicing the kids. Like, I don't think it's like kids voicing kids, because that's how. Right. Yeah. You look up a lot of like the people behind animated characters, and you're like, oh, these are like 30-year-old or 40-year-old something. People, voicing like 10-year-olds or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, that'd be the only other thing I think of, is like either just adapt like those comics that they've come out with, and like, which I think would be the kind of the really boring one, or like I said, do like a previous Avatar, like a mini series. I could see that. I could see that working, because that's not one, you're not forced to retell the original story or
Right.
retell any, and you're allowed to be in that kind of like, well, this happened before Aang, so we don't know what happened. We'll just make some stuff up.
Right. Okay, you know what? I was wrong. I did think of something that I would like to see from the future of Avatar.
Ooh, tell us.
It takes place after what was it, book 3? Yeah, after book 3. Aang finds a way to go into the future to prevent M. Night Shyamalan from making that god-awful movie. Therefore, we do not have to do this episode whenever we do it. And that's my hope. That's what I want the future of Avatar right now.
Well, the Avatar stay is always the show's get out of jail free card. So I'll allow it. Let's get Netflix on the horn. It'll be. Well, we're waiting for our checks.
Pay me.
Pay us. We're we know what the people want. Netflix.
Exactly.
Brian and Mike, you don't need them. You need them. You need Chuck and this
Mic. You. We got it.
Yeah, we got this. But yeah, I think just kind of closing thoughts to anyone listening to this episode and you are on the fence about seeing the show or you're kind of curious, I would say stop what you're doing and just sit on the couch or get on your phone and just start watching it, because once you start, it's like Pringles. Once you pop the top, you just can't stop.
Absolutely, and especially if you're looking for some. This has been a rotten year for various reasons. If you're looking for something that'll kind of give you some hope or look at things in a more positive light, this show is really good for that. It'll put you in a better place. I guarantee that.
And if you're looking for like a nostalgic trip that doesn't feel where it's like, well, I've seen like the 12 different versions of the Ninja Turtles. We've rebooted Star Wars 5 times. There's 3 different Spider-Man. Go back to Avatar. It's still relatively current, and we have it. And so far, besides M. Night, its reputation has not been ruined.
Right. And don't let the fact that it's a cartoon or that it's an animated series throw you, because I know there's some people who are automatically put off by that. Like, I don't want to watch a kid's show. You're really doing yourself a disservice if you do that. You should really just sit down and watch it. I promise you will be surprised.
Yeah, it's definitely I think as time goes on, I think a lot more. I think this recent resurgence in the show's popularity has definitely helped, and I think it's definitely going to make people realize how. I think it could be like, hopefully make people realize there is more stories that can be told. Cartoons are not just for kids. You can tell great stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it also shows why, not necessarily why live action isn't always necessarily better. So but that's an episode for a different night.
I am telling you, you're not going to be ready for me on that episode. I'm not even going to be ready for myself on that episode. I am going to be so out of it. I am.
Hopefully we could trick Nick into. It. That way he can just be totally confused by what is going on at any moment.
I think he did say he would at least watch the movie for the episode, because I think he said he could do with a movie. He just can't do a series, which I understand.
I know. I totally understand that too. But I'm very much looking forward to that, because he is going to be so confused.
It would be.
He's not going to understand why we're so upset.
I was like, why are you guys so pissed? I thought it was an okay movie. What are you talking about? It's all right. It wasn't that bad. Why is Mike crying in the corner?
And Charles keeps banging his head on the wall.
And how many bottles of wine has Mike gone through tonight? Oh boy, I think we need to get him to the hospital. He might have alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, so for all you boys and girls,
let's not think about that now. Let's think about the goodness that is the series. Let's just take in how awesome the animated series is.
Yeah, let's just sit back and enjoy and just pretend that it doesn't exist, that the live action bits don't exist, and just appreciate what is possibly one of the great the single greatest television event since Quantum Leap, and I do not use that lightly.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up I think that wraps up everything I gotta say. Mike, do you got anything else to add?
I mean, like I said in the middle of the show, I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of stuff that I forgot to mention. I will say watching the coup at Bossing Say was a little more uncomfortable this week than I remember. I won't get into that, but just for reasons.
It definitely gave you some I definitely got some Contagion flashbacks in terms of art imitating reality.
But no, I mean, thank you for recommending that we do an episode devoted to this, because I thought this was a lot of fun, and it was just nice. Like I feel bad that it took me this long to finally get into the series, but I feel like it couldn't have come at a better time for me, because I really needed something a little more positive.
Yeah, and I think you need something that just makes you feel good, but also makes you want to appreciate things that are just really perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, boys and ladies and no, I cannot talk tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in to this very special episode of the All New Culture Cast. I am Cousin Charles.
I'm Mike.
And we'll see y'all next time.
You've been listening to the All New Culture Cast. We try to post new episodes every Monday evenings 3 to 4 times a month. Check out our backlog. We could be found at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. You can also find us on Apple iTunes and wherever else podcasts can be downloaded and listened to. This has been the All New Culture Cast, a Saltwater production. Original material copyright 2020. Thanks for listening.
I think, and I'm joking about, I am looking forward to the movie. I think that it's going to be a fun episode because, like I said, I'm going to be super fucking drunk during that episode.
Yeah.